The teasers dropped, the fandom went silent. In an instant, the entire K-pop world was turned upside down. A single Instagram story, posted 7 times over, challenging the biggest music institution on the planet. Welcome to StarScope K-Report. Join Eric and Minji as they ride the Hallyu wave, uncovering the biggest K-pop comebacks, shocking industry controversies, and major K-drama updates. From internet-breaking rumors to historic chart milestones, we dive deep into the world of Korean entertainment. Today, we are undertaking a massive deep dive into a headline that has, honestly, completely fractured the global music industry. I mean, if you've logged on to any social media platform in the last, 48 hours, you already know the bombshell news.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Right, it's literally everywhere. BTS officially boycotts the Grammys, stating they disrespected us. And we've pulled together just this massive stack of sources to try and make sense of this. We're looking at reporting from The Guardian, Hindustan Times, Korea Herald, The National, GOTV, DW News, and of course, the incredibly heated forensic-level discourse happening right now on Reddit and just across major fandom spaces.
Mm-hmm. The Reddit threads are intense right now.
They really are. So our mission today is to figure out exactly how the Recording Academy fundamentally miscalculated, how they pushed the biggest musical act on the planet to just walk away from the table. And ultimately, what this structural earthquake means for the future of global pop music.
Yeah, because it is a genuinely historic paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We are no longer just looking at a pop culture disagreement. We are analyzing a fundamental transfer of power.
Right.
For decades, traditional Western institutions held this absolute monopoly on musical validation. If you got a Grammy, you made it.
Yep.
But today, we are dissecting the exact moment that monopoly broke.
Absolutely. Okay, let's lay out the factual timeline first, just so we understand the mechanics of how this unfolded, because it started a bit ago. Back in June of 2026, the Recording Academy proudly announced a brand new category for the upcoming 69th Annual Grammys in 2027.
Right, the announcement.
Yeah. And they called it the Best Asian Pop Music Performance category. And if you read the corporate press release, they framed this as this massive step forward for inclusion and, global representation.
Which is how they always frame these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the celebration they expected, it never happened. Instead, on July 29, 2026, the earth just shifted. All 7 members of BTS, RM, Jin, SUGA, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, they posted identical statements to their Instagram stories.
Just boom, 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 all at once.
All at once, notifications going crazy. And they officially refused to submit their massive, record-breaking comeback album, Arirang, for any Grammy consideration.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is how deliberate their statement was. They didn't rant, they didn't post some long, angry paragraph. They wrote a very calculated single sentence.
You have it there?
Yeah, I have it right here. It says, "We hope music can be heard and loved as music itself, rather than being divided by region or language." Right. It reads as polite, very professional. But structurally, it is a devastating critique of how the Recording Academy categorizes art. It just cuts right to the bone.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, though, just to play devil's advocate, because I'm sure there are people listening who are like, well, is it possible the Academy genuinely thought they were doing a good thing? Because we constantly hear complaints about the lack of Asian representation in Western media, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So creating a dedicated Asian pop category seems, at least on a corporate level, like a clumsy but maybe genuine attempt to fix that blind spot. Why is this being viewed by the artists and the fandom as a demotion instead of a dedicated spotlight?
That is the crucial question right there. To understand why it's a demotion, you have to look at the historical mechanics of Grammy voting blocks, because it's a pattern. The Hindustan Times and several really fantastic analytical threads on Reddit pointed out that the Grammys have this documented history of what sociologists and music critics call ghettoization.
Ghettoization.
Right. Yeah. Which is a heavy word, but it's exactly what's happening. This isn't just about giving people an award. It's about protecting the main categories, the general field, like Album of the Year and Song of the Year. They protect them from being overrun by outsiders.
So ghettoization in this context means taking a thriving cultural movement, giving it a shiny new box, and just locking it inside so it doesn't threaten the established order of the mainstream pop categories.
That is the exact mechanism. When a genre becomes too powerful, too undeniable, creating a subcategory acts as a pressure release valve. We saw this exact playbook with rap music in the late 1980s.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah, the Grammys finally created a rap category, but they refused to televise it, which led to a massive boycott by artists like Will Smith and LL Cool J.
I remember reading about that. They were just like, we're not going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the unspoken message to the voting body becomes, you don't need to vote for this rap album for Album of the Year because they'll win their own little rap category. We don't have to put them on the main stage.
Which completely sabotages their chances in the general field. And the sources point out this exact same thing happened with Latin music too, right?
Oh, the Latin Grammy history is the perfect parallel. When Latin pop started dominating the global charts, instead of integrating those artists into the main pop categories, the Academy just created separate Latin categories.
Right.
Which, eventually splintered into a completely separate award show, the Latin Grammys.
Right.
And the bureaucratic rules they invented for those categories ended up trapping the artists they claimed to celebrate.
Yeah, let's talk about those rules. Because if you're a single listener out there wondering how arbitrary these institutions can be, this is going to blow your mind. Just look at the Latin Grammy paradox. In the main Grammy Awards, the Best Latin Song category has historically required a specific percentage of Spanish lyrics.
Which sounds completely crazy when you think about it.
It is. Which means if you are a massive Brazilian artist singing in Portuguese, which is a language spoken by over 200 million people in Latin America, you have historically been excluded from the Latin Song category simply because of a bureaucratic language quota.
Yep.
It proves these categories aren't built on a deep understanding of the culture. They're built on, rigid spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like being invited to the most exclusive dinner party in the world, but when you show up with the best dish of the night, the hosts panic and force you to sit at a newly built kids' table in the hallway.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You're technically in the house, sure, you get a participation trophy, but you are distinctly separated from the adult sitting at the main table making the actual decisions.
Right. The artists are looking around saying, why are we sitting on plastic chairs while the main pop categories are happening in the dining room? And what amplifies the insult here is that BTS already put in the grueling work to earn a seat at the main table.
They really did.
They didn't just show up yesterday. They spent years playing the Western music industry's game. They did the endless, exhausting American press tours. They released massive English language hits like Dynamite and Butter. They performed at the Grammys. They presented at the Grammys. They adapted to every single hurdle the Western industry threw at them.
Yeah, and they received nominations for Best Pop Duo Group Performance 3 years in a row. From 2021 to 2023, they were already competing and holding their own in the general pop category. So to suddenly pivot and create an Asian pop category right when BTS drops Arirang, which is arguably their most culturally massive comeback album yet, the timing is incredibly suspicious.
Highly suspicious.
And that's not even the wildest part of this boycott. Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about a hidden message RMY's uncovered regarding the exact date of this announcement. A plot twist nobody saw coming.
Oh, man. The cinematic nature of how K-pop groups communicate with their fans is fully on display here. I can't wait to break that theory down. But first, we have to analyze the immediate fallout from the announcement. Because the fandom reaction wasn't just noise. It was highly organized, strategic fury.
Totally. Both domestic K-nets, Korean netizens, and the massive international iFan community aligned instantly. If you look at the discourse on Reddit, the overarching sentiment is that this Best Asian Pop Music Performance Award is nothing more than a, quote, here damn category.
Basically throwing a bone to quiet the noise while protecting the status quo.
Exactly.
And industry analysts suspect this new category was a mathematical, strategic move by the Recording Academy to avoid giving BTS an all-kill in the main Album of the Year category.
Okay, for our listeners who might not be deep into K-pop terminology, an all-kill usually means a song hitting #1 on every single domestic Korean chart simultaneously. But applying that to the Grammys means sweeping the big four: album, record, and song of the year. And mathematically, BTS was positioned as a massive threat to do exactly that with Arirang.
Yeah, just look at the Western pop landscape right now. Traditional Western Grammy contenders are underperforming. Streaming has fractured the traditional monoculture, meaning Western fan bases are super divided, sales are soft.
Very soft.
Right. And meanwhile, BTS comes off their hiatus, drops Arirang, and completely dominates the global conversation. They have something Western artists currently lack, which is a highly coordinated, unified fandom that buys physical media in staggering numbers.
Huge numbers.
If BTS is on the general ballot, their sheer numerical dominance makes them impossible to ignore, which terrifies the traditional voting blocs.
But, the fandom's anger isn't just about the optics of a separate category. It is rooted in a glaring contradiction in the Academy's own rule book regarding language. And this is where the bureaucracy just completely falls apart upon inspection.
Oh, it really does.
Because, according to the Recording Academy's new rules, to qualify for the Best Asian Pop Music Performance category, a recording must include, and I'm quoting the official document here, meaningful use of one or more Asian languages.
A phrase that sounds wonderfully inclusive on a corporate PR email, but fails spectacularly when applied to the reality of modern borderless pop music.
The irony is staggering. BTS's massive lead single off the Arirang album, the track called Swim, is completely in English. The album itself is a blend of English and Korean, featuring top-tier Western producers. It is, by definition, a global pop album.
Which creates a devastating catch-22 for the artists. If BTS releases an English track like Swim to appeal to the global mainstream, but the industry arbitrarily decides they belong in the Asian category based on their ethnicity, aren't they trapped?
They really are.
They are deemed too Asian to be allowed to dominate the main pop categories, but because their hit song is in English, they aren't Asian enough to meet the criteria for the newly created Asian pop category.
It's an impossible paradoxical standard. They are stuck in Grammy purgatory. It's a mechanism that polices their ethnic identity rather than judging the sonic quality of the music. And pop music doesn't have borders anymore. The listeners don't care what language a song is in. They care if the visuals are stunning, if the choreography is sharp, if the music moves them.
Absolutely. And the members of BTS know this better than anyone. They are brilliant cultural strategists. Which is why this boycott wasn't just a spontaneous emotional reaction to a press release. It was a highly calculated strike.
Which brings us to the Track 29 theory. Oh my gosh. If you want to understand how K-pop fandoms operate like open source intelligence agencies, this is the plot twist that absolutely blew my mind when I was reading through the sources.
It's so good. So this theory was highlighted by DW News, specifically featuring insights from Yale sociologist Professor Grace Kao, who extensively studies the sociology of K-pop. Let's look at the timeline. The Recording Academy announced the new category in June.
Right.
BTS didn't react immediately. They waited over a month to make their move. They finally announced their historic, coordinated boycott on July 29th.
July 29th, just a seemingly random Tuesday.
Until you look at the track list for their new album, Airing. If you go to track 29, there is no music. There are no lyrics. It is purely an audio recording of a ringing bell. Specifically a tolling bell, the kind used to signal the end of an era or a mourning period.
A literal death knell.
Yes. And knowing BTS and knowing how meticulous they are with their lore, their symbolism, and their numbers, fans immediately realized this wasn't a coincidence. In Kpop, a comeback isn't just an album drop, it's a multimedia puzzle box.
Right.
Announcing a boycott against the Western music establishment on the 29th, matching the 29th track, which is a literal bell tolling. It elevates a corporate disagreement into a calculated cinematic declaration of war. It ars them saying, your time is up.
That is just next level storytelling, the visuals, the lore, the real world impact. I mean, it's exactly why K-pop fandoms are so deeply invested. It's never just a song, it's an entire cinematic universe bleeding into reality. And hey, if you love staying updated on your favorites, make sure you're subscribed to StarScope K-Report. We've got even bigger scoops ahead.
Definitely subscribe. But the story doesn't end with the tolling bell. The aftermath has been just as chaotic, especially when we look at the behind-the-scenes corporate maneuvering. Because in K Entertainment, the official agency statement is everything.
Oh, 100%. According to GOTV, HYBE Labels, the massive entertainment conglomerate behind BTS, released their own official response shortly after the members posted. And watching HYBE navigate this was like watching a masterclass in corporate risk management. They walked a very careful but very sharp tightrope.
They essentially had to play good cop to BTS's bad cop. Because HYBE represents multiple huge groups across different generations of K-pop. So they officially clarified that this is not a company-wide boycott.
Which is smart.
Very smart. Meaning, if other artists under the HYBE umbrella, perhaps they're younger matinee groups who still need that Western exposure, want to submit to the Grammys, they are free to do so. HYBE shielded the rest of their roster from a potential industry blacklist.
But once they established that safety net, HYBE dropped a massive, incredibly bold quote regarding BTS specifically. So the official statement read, quote, "It is difficult to accept that this Grammy screening change was made when BTS is most likely to win the main prize."
That is a mic drop statement from a publicly traded corporate entity.
Right. I was shocked when I read that.
Entertainment agencies usually hide behind polite, heavily sanitized PR language to publicly and officially state, you changed the rules because our artists were mathematically about to beat you at your own game. That is a level of aggression and institutional confidence we rarely see aimed at the Recording Academy.
And you can tell it completely rattled the Grammys. The panic in their response was palpable. CEO Harvey Mason Jr. immediately rushed to do damage control. He released statements saying he was saddened by BTS's decision and insisted that the category was meant to expand recognition. He kept repeating the defense that artists in the Asian pop category could still theoretically be nominated in the general field.
Yeah, theoretically.
Yeah.
But actions speak louder than press releases. Because according to the Korea Times, right after the boycott was announced, the Grammys engaged in what can only be described as astonishingly petty retaliation.
This is so petty.
They went into their web backend and scrubbed BTS live performance videos from the official Grammy website.
Wait, they literally deleted their history? Talk about proving the fandom's point. You say you want to celebrate these artists, but the second they challenge your authority, a 70-year-old prestigious institution behaves like a 19-year-old going through a bad breakup on Instagram, just deleting all the photos.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But the optics were disastrous. The Academy quickly realized they overplayed their hand because the backlash wasn't just from ARMY. The broader global music industry looked at that retaliation and saw how weak and childish the institution appeared.
Yeah.
And now the leverage has completely flipped. According to recent reports, Grammy leadership is frantically consulting with representatives across the K-pop, J-pop, C-pop, and Indian music industries, including HYBE, desperately trying to reconsider the category rules before the October voting deadline.
So what does this all mean? We have the biggest award show in America suddenly scrambling to appease a Korean pop group and their agency. What does this mean for the macroeconomics of the music industry?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are witnessing is a concept called institutional decentralization.
Okay.
For the last 50 years, the Grammys held all the cards. If you were an artist, a Grammy win guaranteed a massive spike in record sales, international touring deals, and cultural prestige. They were the ultimate gatekeepers. You had to play by their rules to access the global market. But the internet, and specifically the immense organized power of the Hallyu wave, broke that monopoly.
And the economic data backs that up completely. If you look at the DW News report, they cited the global physical album sales from last year. We aren't talking about fractions of a cent from streaming. We're talking about fans going to stores and buying physical media, which is the most lucrative metric in the industry.
Absolutely.
Taylor Swift was #1 globally. Guess who occupied the next 19 spots on that list?
All Asian pop acts, predominantly K-pop.
19 of the top 20 physical sellers in the world. That is a staggering economic reality.
And that is exactly why the Grammys are panicking. They're suffering from declining television ratings year over year, and they are struggling to stay relevant to younger, digitally native global audiences. The hard truth is the Grammys need the massive viewership, the social media trending power, and the sheer economic force of K-pop stands far more than BTS needs a little golden gramophone trophy.
Oh, so true.
A single Weverse live stream from Jungkook drives more actual consumer engagement than a 3-hour Grammy broadcast.
Wow. Yeah, BTS just proved that they don't need to beg for a seat at the table. They are the table. They can sell out stadiums on every single continent, break global streaming records, and dominate the cultural zeitgeist entirely outside of Western institutional approval. They built a sovereign economy, and we are witnessing history right now. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a KT update as this Grammy battle unfolds.
So it really is a watershed moment for pop culture. But it leaves us with a fascinating and incredibly complicated sociological dilemma for the industry moving forward.
How so?
Well, if the Grammys refuse to back down and these controversial rules stay exactly the same, whoever wins the very first Best Asian Pop Music Performance Award in 2027 is going to face an impossible situation.
Oh!
Right. They will be walking up to a podium to accept a trophy that the biggest group in the world publicly and loudly rejected.
Which taints the award before it's even handed out.
Exactly. Will that award be seen by the global public as a historic, barrier-breaking triumph for the winner? Or will it be seen as a poison chalice? Does accepting that trophy permanently mark that artist as someone who happily sat at the kids' table after the kings of the industry walked out of the room?
Man, that is a heavy question. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. You've been listening to StarScope K-Report, where Eric and Minji bring you the stories shaping K-pop, K-dramas, and the global Hallyu wave. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.